In this video, we're going to attempt to write a method called findBiggest. The purpose of findBiggest is to find the biggest integer value in this data file. So let's have a read of this. I'll stick it in preview mode. findBiggest. Using the data file provided, create a method called findBiggest. This method should accept an array list of integers and return the largest integer that occurs in a given array list. You will have to create the array list by loading the data from the file data.txt. It can be assumed that the data file only contains positive integers. And it says here, do not use a built-in method to find the maximum value. Okay, so we're going to just try and do this by ourselves. So I'm just going to go across to the main.java and have a go at this. So I'm going to have an array list. I'm going to call it nums. Here I'm using diamond referencing. The array list will contain integers. And next I'm going to have a buffered reader, and I'll call it br is equal to a new buffered reader, which will incorporate a file reader, and that should be pointed at data.txt. I'm just going to do br.close. I know there's other ways to do it, and this is fine. I'm just going to add some import statements here. And just to save us a little bit of time, I'm just using wildcards. And that's fine. So now I'm going to declare a temporary string. I'm just going to call it line. I'm going to iterate through the file contents. And so here we go. I'm just going to use a while loop. And I'm going to read the contents of the string, read the contents of the file, and whilst they're not null, I'm going to take that, I'm going to add it to the array list. So I'll just go nums.add, and then I'll take line, but I'll take a integer.value offline. And that should have worked okay. Now the thing is here, I'd like to test this, so I'm going to add another file and just call it test.txt. And sometimes you're given test data, but here I haven't been. So there we go, that'll do me. I've got 4 things there, and I can go back to the main area, change that to test.txt, and on here I can actually do a print statement. And I can print nums out because you can print out array lists directly. I'm going to run that and see if it works. And it's thrown up an error because I've got a spelling mistake. I've typed integers, that's fine. And it should throw up one more error. And it has got an unreported exception. And here, to fix that, I can simply go here and say throws IO exception. And if I run that, hopefully that should work. And yeah, you can see that that's worked fine. So now I've got some test data that I can play with. Now what I actually need here is, and I'm going to call it the biggest. Is equal to findBiggest, and it should only take nums as its parameter, and here I can do system out print line biggest. So this is all good. Next thing I need to do is create a method to find the biggest integer in an array list. And so I'll have a public method which is static, and it returns an integer, and it's called find biggest, and the parameters that it takes on board is one thing, just an array list of integers, and I need to capitalize that. I'm going to call that nums. Okay, and it's underlining just now because we haven't got a big value at the moment that's being returned, and I'm just going to make it 0, and I'm going to return big, and now hopefully that will get rid of the underline, and that's just because we're returning an integer, and it will flag up right until we have a return statement. Okay, and because these are positive integers, I'm just going to make this -1. Some people made it the negative infinity, and that's fine as well. So what am I going to do now? I am literally going to do a linear iteration through the data set to find the lowest value. Sorry, the highest value. Okay, so now here I could actually use a for each loop, but I'm just going to use a standard for loop for 0, I is less than nums.size I++, increment I, and all I have to do is say if, and here I'll do nums.get I is greater than big, and big is equal to nums.get I, and that's it. That's all we need. If you don't particularly like using single line if statements, then we can put that down there and put a closing bracket around it as well, a closing brace like that. So this just iterates, it's a linear iteration through the data set, and it gets that and it returns it. So let's find out if that works. Now we're in the test data set, so it should return 131. In fact, I'm going to put a lower number there for a second, and I'll go back there. So it should return, sorry, 212 it should return. Go back here, run that, and it returns 212. Excellent. I'm going to go back to the test data. I'm going to put a bigger number here to make sure it reads that last one, and it's returned 222, and that's fine. So now I can actually make it go to the data set by changing this to data, and I'll run that, and here it's got the answer down there, but I have committed the sin of printing out the whole of the data set. So I'll comment that out and run it again. And there's the number there. I'm just going to go plus plus. So the answer to this task was 49993. Okay. So you might want to comment it up a little bit more than that. It's not a very complex problem. And some people would consider the possibility of writing a method to get the data from the dataset into the array, and that would be a good thing as well, promoting modularity and reuse. So that's this video, finding the biggest integer in a dataset. Thanks for watching.